What is going on, everyone? Chris with Journals, Comics, and Pop Culture. Today, we are looking at the top 10 undervalued Copper Age key comics to invest in. I always like to make clear I do not use the term undervalued very often, so I'm going to explain what I mean by undervalued in just a moment here. Before we get into the video, though, if you aren't subscribed to the channel, please take some time to do so. Check out all the awesome links below as well. And I also have to give a big thank you to today's sponsor, the OTIS app. So before we start counting down some hot Copper Age books, I just want to take a couple minutes to talk about today's sponsor, OTIS. OTIS is the stock market for culture, an alternative investment app that allows anyone to buy and sell shares of culturally relevant pieces. Weekly drops include a mix of contemporary art, collector's pieces, and pop culture items. What are we here for, folks? Comic books, right? OTIS offers a nice line of blue chip key comics. We're actually going to go in and take a look at some of these comics available for you to purchase shares of. As you guys can see here, we got a hot one right now, Special Marvel Edition 15, first appearance of Shang-Chi. We could go into this and see that shares of this book are selling at $31 a share. You can see the 1 month to 3 month market fluctuation of what this book's been doing. Obviously, this is a new listing. Trending stats, all kind of details regarding the book and what it's been doing on the market are right there for you to see. We're going to go over to another one. We got Hulk 181, Avengers #1. Let's look at Fantastic Four 52, the first appearance of Black Panther. Now you can see that over the last month, this book's shares actually took a loss. But if you look over the last 3 months, you can see that there's been substantial gains still. So again, multiple ways for you to earn potential returns on your investments. Another one that I wanted to look at is one that is actually exited / sold. X-Men #1. Let's look at this book. If you would have invested in shares of this book when it first listed, you would have earned 65%, as it states at the top there, on your initial investment, as this book's shares ended at $123.89 per share. Assets sold on July 23rd of this year. Look at this, $225,479.80. Netting investors $123.89 per share, and a 65.19% return from the IPO price. Folks, if you want to get in on assets that a lot of us as collectors might not be able to buy straight out, this is a good way, again, to invest in some of these blue chip key comics, and is a good way to earn potential returns on your investment. So be sure to check out that link in the description below. And when you sign up for OTIS with that link in the description, you can get your first share for free when you fund your account. All right, everyone, we got a top 10. What does undervalued mean to me? Let me take a few seconds to just explain this. A lot of people use the term undervalued for comics. I'm hesitant to do that. What I mean when I say undervalued is basically a finance term, which means an intrinsic value that is not yet recognized. So it walks a thin line. I'm not really looking at movie hype. I'm not really looking at, live action type speculation, because that could be seen as extrinsic value. But like I said, it's a very fine line. So I'm going to explain why I think each of these books are undervalued as we go along. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before we get into the books is that the lower we get down in number, the hotter these books are going to be on the market. We're looking at fair market value from 5 years ago, and we're going to be comparing that to fair market value of today. And we're going to see how these books have grown on the market over that 5-year span. So let's get into book number 10 on the list. We got Omega Man #3. This is the first appearance of Lobo. You guys like those copper bricks back there, because we're talking Copper Age today? All right, folks, let's look at the numbers for this book and let's talk about it a little bit. Current CGC 9.8 fair market value sitting at about $311. 5 years ago, $161. That's a 5-year increase of 93%. Solid. It's almost doubled, right? High raw sold for 152, so it doesn't have anything to do with grade. It's merely the highest dollar amount for a raw book sold. Average raw, again, it doesn't pertain to grade. It's just the accumulative average of all books sold that are raw, no matter the grade. Sitting at about $90, so that means you could find some type of somewhere in the mid-grade range for around that $90 mark. Now, this book has increased over the last 5 years. Why do I think it's undervalued? Because I think Lobo has a lot of intrinsic value that has not been recognized. Now, I don't want to categorize him right there with Wolverine, but we know there's some similarities there, and we know how big Wolverine's first appearance is. And again, different characters, don't twist my words around, but there is this cult following behind Lobo, and I just think the comic books haven't used Lobo as much as, say, Marvel's done with Wolverine over the years, to where I think this character could have had a better trajectory through the years since his first appearance. Now, I'm more of a Marvel guy, although I love DC. I'm not really personally much of a Lobo fan, but from my research and my knowledge and from what I've seen ever since I was a kid, I definitely think that intrinsic value is still there. And look, there's no movie hype or nothing really going on, and this book is still increasing in value. So I think that trend is going to continue. All right, let's go to book number 9, my Do SpiderMan, Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 21, The Wedding of Peter and MJ. Let's look at these numbers and let's talk about it. Current CGC 9.8 fair market value sitting at about $218. 5 years ago, $112. 95% increase. Again, almost doubled in value there. High raw sitting at 40, average raw sitting at about 21. Let me talk about fair market value for a moment too, folks. Fair market value is not an exact science. It's a moving number, all right? It could change day to day, week to week, and it's merely an average of recent sales or what the book has been recently doing on the market. So keep that in mind. Why do I think this book is undervalued? Well, 2 words, Dan Slott. 2 words, Dan Slott. Dan Slott. The One More Day storyline, or the one moment in time, and then the One More Day storyline, I thought was awesome, but I thought it was going to be something that happened for a couple of years, and then something would happen where everyone remembered and they're back to normal. That never happened, and we're 15 years later almost, right? So look, this is an iconic point in Spider-Man and Marvel history. And I think this book would have gotten more traction if Dan Slott never retconned it. You know, and I know I'm a little behind on my current reading of Nick Spencer's ASM, so no spoilers, guys, but it seems that there's hints of this coming back and people remembering, right? I hope that happens. So there's also the variant of this cover where Peter is in the Spider-Man costume. That book is a little bit higher on the market than this one is, but 2 books that I think are going to continue to increase over time for that long term. Let's move on to book number 8, Batman 404. This is where year 1 begins. It's also the first appearance of the modern Catwoman. Again, let's look at these numbers. Current CGC 9.8 fair market value sitting at $313. 5 years ago, $144. That is a 5-year increase of 117%, more than doubled. High raw sitting at about 44, average raw 13. Very, very affordable book here. Still, I think this book is one of those storylines that is just pivotal. And as these books age out, you know, this book is over 30 years old now. 10, 15 years down the line, this classic Frank Miller story is going to be even more iconic. I mean, look, Matt Reeves is, from what I know about the Matt Reeves Batman film, they're taking some of this a storyline and inserting that into, probably a fresh take on the Batman altogether. But I definitely think this storyline is one for the ages. And as you can see, it's already what it's done over the last 5 years. But yet you could still find probably a decent mid-grade out there for around $13. That's solid. And it has a first appearance. So Batman, you can't go wrong. There's so much Batman out there that I think is still affordable, that has a very high ceiling for long-term investments, folks. All right, let's go into book number 7 on the list. Punisher Action. This is Punisher number 1, volume 1. This is his first solo title. Now, this is the limited series. So, a lot of similarities with Punisher to Wolverine. And again, it's not apples to apples, so don't twist my words, but you get this iconic cult character that's introduced in the Bronze Age, Wolverine, Punisher, right? They're both kind of coming out as kind of anti-heroes. Punisher's going after Spider-Man. Wolverine's going after Hulk. Obviously, they're definitely heroes in their own rights, especially as their story arc has evolved over time. And then you see them in their first solo title for the first time in a mini-series. So definitely some similarities going on. Let's look at these numbers. Current CGC 9.8, fair market value, $785. 5 years ago, $313. That's 151% increase in value over the last 5 years. High raw sitting about 78 with the average raw sitting at about 49. I just look there. What more can I say? He's the Punisher. He's the Punisher. Classic Mike Zeck cover. Just killing it. Again, as these books age out, and get older and older, I just think it's going to become more iconic. And I just think as the first solo title of Punisher, I mean, come on, man. Come on. I think that I do. I don't know off the top of my head, but I want to say that earlier this year, this book did have 9.8 that broke that 1K sales mark. I do want to say that for my research. So, but yeah, guys, again, I have a nice kind of mid-grade copy of this book. Just happy to have it. All right, let's move on to number 6 on the list. Amazing Spider-Man number 253. A villain here, guys, but I put it on the list. This is the first appearance of Richard Fisk as the Rose. Now, for those that don't know, that's Kingpin's son. All right, let's look at these numbers. Let's talk about it. Current CGC 9.8 fair market value, $210. 5 years ago, 75. That's a 5-year increase of 180%. Who would have thought, right? High raw still extremely affordable, sitting at $28. Average raw at $12. A very affordable book still. I know there's a lot of, don't spec on villains and all this stuff, but here's the thing. I love the Rose story arc in the 80s and in the, what was it? Oh, man, what was the storyline? I just had it earlier and I forgot, but that Crime Wave storyline that happened, and it happened in Amazing, crossed over in Spectacular and Web of, the Crime Boss storyline or whatever it was called. And Rose was a huge player in that. And I just thought it was amazing writing altogether. And I really feel like that storyline can be done as a Disney Plus TV series, maybe a Hulu, right? I like to see it a little more gritty, even in a Spider-Man film. So I just think this is an overlooked story arc of a character that we should keep talking about over time, and there's that intrinsic value there. Again, look, I as far as I'm concerned, there's not much hype around the Rose showing up in the MCU or something. Although I've said this though, we know that Tom Holland's extended his contract for 3 more films. There's going to be 1 more trilogy. It's going to have a new director, and the one thing that we know about it is it's going to be more mature and gritty. So I'm thinking street level. I'm thinking Kingpin. I'm thinking Rose. I'm thinking Tombstone. So a lot of possibilities there, right? All right, folks, we are halfway done. Let's go to book number 5. This is Action Comics 595, another villain. This is the first appearance of Silver Banshee. Now, this might be just a nostalgic book for me that I threw on here. And, Superman in Copper Age, there's not a lot there. There's really not a lot going on for Superman during this time period. You don't see a lot of key books. But this is an interesting one. For me, I just loved, when I was reading Superman as a kid, and I was reading Silver Banshee, I don't know, for me, I had kind of as a kid, I was like, these crazy villain women, Poison Ivy was another one. She was one that just like captivated me, right? So definitely a lot there personally, but look at these numbers of what this book is already doing. Current CGC 9.8 fair market value sitting at $175. 5 years ago, $50. That's a 5-year increase of 250 in value. High Raw though still sitting at 20, and average Raw sitting at $5. Very, very affordable book out there, guys. This character showed up in the Supergirl TV show. Not to say that that did anything. You know, the CW shows don't really do much in terms of spec value, but you never know. I mean, the Supergirl show hasn't gotten a lot of acclaim, so to say. But look, I love this character, and look, the book's been trending upward. Will it continue that way? I can't make any promises, but I think it's a solid one to get. If you can find a copy for $5 laying around, or even under $10, I think it's a worthy investment. And with that being said, folks, I'm here to make my statement that I always make in these types of videos. I am not here to tell you to buy any of these books. I'm not here to make any promises on those accounts, but what I am here is to provide you some facts, some data, and a little bit of my personal opinion sprinkled in. If you don't have anything vested into these books, no kind of love for the characters of the books, or you're not willing to make the investment and take that investment risk, then maybe the book isn't for you. All right, that's my disclaimer. But let's go on to book number 4. Voltron number 1. Who doesn't love some Voltron? Man, what Voltron means to me, and again, I might be a bit biased here, but this is the first appearance of Voltron in U.S. Comics. Let's look at the numbers. Current CGC 9.8 fair market value sitting at $560. This isn't no cheap book anymore, obviously. 5 years ago, $118. It's a 5-year increase of 375%. Wow. High Raw sitting at 47. It was a recent sale, and there's not many on the market for me to even gauge average. So let me tell you, folks, this book has definitely been booming. And again, why do I think intrinsic value of Voltron being a cult classic character? The anime roots, really, if it wasn't for the success of Voltron in the U.S., I don't think we would ever have the Transformers. So and if anybody ever watched that show on Netflix, The Toys That Made Us, I believe it was called, and that episode where they talk about the history of Transformers, it definitely dives a bit into that. So I just think this book is a solid long-term investment. And, I'm going to make a statement here, folks. And again, this is just my opinion. And nobody knows what the future holds, but I think 10 years from now, we might consider this book to be borderline a blue chip key comic book. I do. I think it can hold that weight. All right. All right, everyone. We got the top 3 coming up. Number 3 is Wolverine. Wolverine number 1, volume 2, his first ongoing title. I've had this book on many lists over the last probably year and a half or 2 years. This book, I had it on Undervalued number 1, Marvel number 1s recently as well. Let's look at these numbers. Current CGC 9.8 sitting at $665. It's been taken off. I don't see, this is when we get into these lower numbers, the term undervalued is a bit skewed, right? 5 years ago, this book was sitting at $133. That's a 5-year increase in value of 400%. That's 5 times what it was worth. Times that number by 5, and what do you get? $665. High Raw, 229, and an average Raw sitting at about 91 right now. So I can tell you, the last time I talked about this book, it's already increased in value. So it goes to show you how this book's moving. I've said there's a lot of speculation right now, though, just due to the X-Men popping up in the MCU. We know it's going to happen, and fans are hoping that Wolverine is an integral part of that. I don't know. I'm thinking we might see Wolverine later rather than sooner, but still, Wolverine is one of those characters that has those huge books that are getting bigger and bigger and that are increasing in value and are out of reach of many collectors, so they're going after the next best thing. Hulk 180, Hulk 180. Giant size X-Men number 1. What's after that? Wolverine #1, Frank Miller Limited. That one is booming. I mean, it's just, I think it's almost tripled in value over the last year plus. This is the next one on the list. So I expect this one to continue on a very similar trend. All right, folks. Uncanny X-Men 221, first appearance of Mr. Sinister. This book is finally getting the love it's deserved. I've talked about this book for a long time, made many videos. Let's look at these numbers. Current CGC 9.8 fair market value, $590. 5 years ago, $114. That's a 5-year increase of 417%. High raw hit 75 with the average raw sitting at 54. Okay, so again, bottom books, you're skewed undervalue here because they're finally catching up to what I think is that intrinsic value that they deserve. This book, even just a couple years ago, probably was still more around a $20 book in decent high grade. So this book is finally making it happen. I think Mr. Sinister is just one of those villains that I think for some reason, and again, I don't know if it's, he's not on the cover, whatever the case may be. This guy is, I can't believe he hasn't been in a movie yet either. But I'm glad he's been saved because I hope we see him in the MCU when done right. But to see this book increase this much over the next 5 years, I think is solid. I expect similar trajectory. I mean, maybe not at the same, rate of return year after year, but I do expect a steady long term on this book. If we get any movie announcement for Mr. Sinister, and then we just hope that it's not a one and done or something happens where they just kind of kill him off. Then we can see a decent dip. But when you talk about floors being set, new floors are being set with this book right now. Being a Copper Age, first appearance key. Being that the Copper Age is getting farther and farther away from us. These books are getting older and older. And even if we see ebb and flow due to movie hype, the intrinsic value of this book continues to drive it, folks. So we have one more book today. Who's ready for #1? But before I show off #1, I got to remind you all that if you are looking to buy supplies, check out BCW's website link in the description below. If you make an order there, you can receive 10% off of that order by using the code JOURNOS. You can use this code as many times as you want. It never expires. For little orders, large orders, whatever the case is. I buy most of my supplies through BCW. I stand by them, and I hope that you guys can take advantage of getting 10% off of your purchases and saving you a little bit of money. So, with that being said, let's get to this #1 book. It is Transformers #1. First appearance in comic books of the Autobots and Decepticons, folks. Again, maybe I'm biased. I'm a huge, huge Transformers fan. What I said for Voltron, that's like a miniature scale of what I can say for this book. I think this book is already established as a blue chip key. It is a blue chip Copper Age key book. Let's look at these numbers. Current CGC 9.8 fair market value, $2,578. 5 years ago, $395. That is a 5-year increase of 553%. High raw sitting at 84, and again, funny, 84. That's the year that Transformers came out. That doesn't mean near mint. It doesn't even mean very fine near mint. It just means the highest on the market. I can't tell you what grade that was. Average raw sitting at about $56. No matter what happens with the Transformers, I believe this book is going to continue. Similar to how Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle 1 has increased. And again, not apples to apples. You got to understand that the Turtles are rooted in the comic books. Transformers aren't, with the toy line and then moving into the TV show, comic books and everything. So it's still a different beast, but there are similarities there. I think this book is absolutely one for the ages. I really didn't think I would own this book for a long time. I was able to get a decent mid-grade copy about a little over a year ago now. Very happy to have done that. I think I kind of overpaid for it at the time, but like I said, the book continues to increase, so it was a solid purchase still. Transformers number one, folks. There is my list of my 10 Copper Age books that have some undervalue elements going on because of those intrinsic values being able to continue to be seen more and more as we move into the future. All right, folks, I want to know your thoughts below. What did you think of the books that I put on this list? How many do you own? How many are you in the hunt for? And let me know if there were any books that you thought should have been on this list. But as always, before I go, I got to give a big shout out to my Patreon members and my YouTube channel members. To all my members, I am back in my home for those that don't know. And it's been a crazy couple of months. And I have a lot of promises that I have to keep for all of my members. And again, I will make sure I keep those promises. We are going to get caught up. We are going to roll out a couple of contests here real soon. So to my patrons, each and every one of you, thank you so much. And of course, to my YouTube channel members, thank you all for the continued support. If you guys are interested in being a member, the YouTube channel members are only $1.99 a month. You get early access to videos, and I often post tips a couple of months, just collector's tips, and I also run contests, small contests for my YouTube members. You also get extra entries into all of my standard YouTube contests. For my patrons, is $3.99 a month. You get a little bit more perks. You get an exclusive Q&A video. You also get a Patreon suggestion video a month. I do Patreon-only contests as well, and you also get extra entries into my standard YouTube contest as well. So to all of you, thank you so much. To everyone watching, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. And again, I want to give a shout out to OTIS for sponsoring this video today. Thank you all so much. Be well, and until next time.